This sleek modern train connects major cities in Kenya. Funded largely by China, the Kenya Standard Gauge Railway began operations in 2017. From gleaming railways to state-of-the-art highways, ports and power plants, Chinese investments have reshaped the African landscape. Like Kenya's landmark railway, many of these projects were financed by Chinese entities, participating in Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. Since this initiative to improve connectivity and cooperation was launched in 2013, it has grown rapidly across the African continent.
53 out of 54 African countries have a memorandum of understanding with China on the Belt and Road Initiative.
But China's current economic slowdown, coupled with the prospect of Western trade restrictions and the uncertainties posed by the new US administration, have prompted a recalibration of economic ties between China and African nations.
That's actually good because Africa by 2050 is going to have the largest population on the planet, and the African population to be under 20 years old. That's a big market right there. That's a big market. You need to do business with Africa. It's the time. And China is right, you know what I mean? They're trying to take ahead of all these things, you know. And the other things that they're trying to develop the country. Now, it's African leaders to, you know, to see what they can do. And if they can do it right, it's a win-win situation. But if it's not, you're gonna lose again.
China's commitment to Africa was on full display in early 2025, when Foreign Minister Wang Yi embarked on a work visit to the continent.
The foreign minister will always make a trip to the African continent at the beginning of the year, and they will usually pick between 4 and 5 countries to go to. It's a tradition that's been ongoing for about 35 years.
In 2025, Wang visited Namibia, the Republic of Congo, Chad, and Nigeria. In mineral-rich Namibia, he emphasized the nation's mutually beneficial economic ties. Wang's visit was aimed at advancing the 10 partnership action plans outlined at the latest FOCAC, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit, last held in Beijing in September 2024. The forum, first held in 2000, has evolved into a platform for collaboration between China and African nations on many levels.
共同推动世界走向和平、安全、繁荣、进步的光明前景。
China and the 53 African countries that participate in the forum meet every 3 years. Each gathering results in a 3-year action plan and pledges from China of loans, grants, and export credits to Africa. At the 2024 forum, China's government pledged over $50 billion in economic support to Africa.
It was the first FOCAC since the opening up of China after COVID-19 controls. So we saw a much larger number of bilaterals between President Xi and African presidents. We saw the largest number of African heads of state to China in one go. And in fact, to any Africa Plus One summit, this was the most best attended of the summits ever, whether it's to China, to the US, etc. So that kind of signifies from the African perspective just how important China is.
After the 2025 two sessions, China's annual parliamentary meetings, the Chinese leadership said the China-Africa relationship is now at its best in history.
中非命运共同体的定位提升到全天候的层级。25年来，中方帮助非洲新建和升级了将近10万公里公路，还有超过1万公里的铁路。仅过去3年，中国企业 就为非洲又提供了超过110万个就业岗位。
This Chinese-funded port in Nigeria is one of the larger projects completed in the past few years. The Lekki Deep Sea Port opened in January 2023. The facility is 75% owned by Singapore-based Tolaram Group and Chinese state-owned China Harbour Engineering Company. It is an example of how the Chinese government lending boom is gradually being replaced by the commercial project market.
China hold 75% for how long? 20 years? 30? 100? I mean, I don't know. It depends. I really hope that the African countries are really doing the right choices. You know what I mean? Because that's crazy. 75%. That's crazy. But at the same time, yeah, China brings everything. You know what I mean? Now, the relationship between both the continent and China are great. Okay? China never targeted Africa. Even though we are now hearing that they may have financed some proxy war in Sahel. We don't know. I need to dig on that a little bit more. But that's crazy. The only thing I don't like in this type of situation, mostly in Africa, you see a lot of Chinese people misbehaving in Africa, you know, mistreating Africans. And you just see Africans just accepting. That's crazy. That's crazy. And another thing, why would you do a business with someone and that person will also bring people from its own country to work in your country, as if you don't have poor people in your own country that need to work? That's crazy. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Why would you do that? I have a low class, poor people. I need to create a middle class, upper class. So you just need to bring me one person to teach my people how to sustain, how to work. You don't need to bring me your people from your country. That's crazy. That's a bad business. You don't do business like that. Because it means when the Chinese are going to leave, if your people don't know how to take care, how to sustain those infrastructures, you are going to call back Chinese. That's crazy. That's crazy.
If you look at data between 2013 and 18, China's lending to African countries averaged around 10 billion every year. But in the recent years, we have seen it go below 2 billion. Now there are new ways through which China is advancing money to African countries, the public-private partnerships, where Chinese companies are investing in projects. So instead of lending directly to governments, China is lending via African multilateral banks.
We expect to see a lot more investment in institutions like Afro-Exim Bank, African Finance Corporation, maybe more projects with them directly, all these sorts of things. But certainly the financing from China is, in the message last year from the Forum on China Africa Corporation was, China's back.
While Kenya is also hoping it can get China and its banks to back the next phase of the Kenya Standard Gauge Railway, which would significantly boost the project's potential for profitability, another massive infrastructure project opened in Kenya with the financial support of China, the Nairobi Expressway. The 27-kilometer toll road connects Nairobi's international airport to the city's Westlands area.
But our gratitude also goes to our partners, China Road Bridge Corporation, for choosing to invest and therefore demonstrating their confidence in our country, Kenya.
CLBC will run the project for 27 years, to recoup its investment before it can transfer it to the Kenyan government.
Okay, those are the type of deal they are making. Okay, 27 years, then after that he's going back to the African, here Kenya, and I think most of the partnership with all the African countries are the same, 20, 25, 30 years. Okay, that's pretty good because 20, 27, 30 is not that long for a country. And after that, you have that. That's great. Africa need that. Infrastructures need all those things to connect the country, to connect the continent, to connect the people, to create jobs. And it's the only way that this country are going to make sure that the population stay and don't leave. Don't delete themselves crossing the Mediterranean Sea. So yeah, that's good. We will need to see more of that. We will see. But I like that.
So instead of the government advancing money to Kenya, it's encouraging its companies to invest in African projects.
China is increasingly relying on public-private partnerships and African financial institutions for project funding. This is a shift away from the traditional government-to-government loans.
China had been accused of, by mostly Western countries, that it was advancing a lot of money that some of those countries could not repay.
Many countries in Africa have benefited from China-backed projects, but the investments have also contributed to a growing national debt.
The term debt trap diplomacy was used by the Trump administration's first term, where officials used to say China was advancing more money to African countries with the aim of those countries becoming dependent on China.
Facts. That's true. And I believe that's true. Facts. And now, what do we do? Africa needs to develop, need to create more jobs, infrastructures, and sustain it. So yeah, they are going to have a lot of debt. And like they just say in Kenya, 25 years, 27 years. So, but at least they are developing themselves. So that's pretty much okay. And let's be clear, all African countries are rich countries. Okay. By the time they run out all these minerals, everything they have time to repay the debt back to China. They have that. But now you can do another type of deal. You can say like, hey, look, China, I need that. I need hospital. I need schools. I need universities. I need cities, whatever. And I'm going to pay you minerals. You can also do that. That's another form of business, And it's easy. You make a deal, and every year, every month, you deliver mineral to China. That's great also. So I don't know. We'll see.
While debt sustainability is a concern, many African leaders see China-backed projects as essential for modernization. Now that a lot of infrastructure is in place, investment in green energy is rapidly increasing.
China's obviously been involved in a lot of green projects already, especially hydro projects in African countries, but we see more recently a diversification of that. And Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to Namibia, for example, Namibia is a country that has a great deal of potential on green energy, including green hydrogen. Many African countries, they do want to diversify into solar and wind and other sources of renewable energy, and feel that China is going to be key to that.
South Africa, the continent's largest economy, is a key trading partner for China. Traditionally, Chinese companies have invested heavily in South African mining, but more recently, advancement of the manufacturing sector is on the agenda.
It was a massive message from African leaders that they want China in particular, as the world's current manufacturing hub, to be outsourcing its manufacturing to Africa.
Most of these processing factories are seen in Egypt. Egypt is strategic because it's near to Europe. So Chinese companies can export their products to Europe and Asia. And we have seen a similar trend in Morocco, where they are setting up electric battery manufacturing units to take advantage of the market in Europe. Morocco has a free trade agreement with both Europe and the US, so they can easily circumvent the tariffs that have been imposed on Chinese EV.
The textile sector is a key pillar of Morocco's economy. In 2024, Chinese textile giant Sunrise announced it would invest $422 million in a North African nation. The deal was signed on the sidelines of the 2024 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation.
This project will boost the Moroccan economy and allow the transfer of Chinese skills and technology to Morocco. This investment will deepen cooperation between China and Morocco.
The Chinese-Moroccan project is set to create more than 10,000 jobs in Morocco. One of China's official aims in Africa is to connect it to global markets through improved communication networks.
We have seen Huawei as the main provider of the technology for a number of African countries, even though the US has tried to discourage countries from using Chinese technology.
Chinese firms like Huawei, ZTE, and China Telecom are behind most of the core systems of Africa's new ICT infrastructure.
In fact, there's a time Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa said, "You can't tell us what partner to choose. We'll go with whoever we think gives us value for our money."
Yeah, okay. Wait a minute. Hold on, my boy. Okay, I agree with that. 100%. But at the same time, this is 2025. You know what I mean? We have a lot of Africans outside of Africa, you know, and in Africa, doing great things in technology, STEMs, math. Okay, it's time for African countries to start building their own IT hub, everything we need. You know what I mean? It's time. You cannot depend on China or on Europe. You know what I mean? But what I'm seeing here is what happened to China, you know? Back in the 50s and before that, China was heavily poor. It was a poor country. Korea was poor. Some of the West African countries were well put together, well rich, well off than Korea. Look at now Korea. Killing everything. One of the most developed countries in the world. So, the same thing is going to happen with Africa. You know, China company, European company, Americans company are going to open their company in Africa. Cheap labor, it's always started like that. Cheap labor in Africa, and then Africa is going to be number one, just like China. You know what I mean? But what I like with China is that they think I cannot deal with poor people. I'm trying to make money for my people, and I'm trying to sell things. And it's always better to sell to people that have money than to poor people. So China is helping African countries to develop so they can buy Chinese product. They can do deal with China. It's a win-win situation. Whereas European Americans, they don't care about these things. They just want your minerals and that's it. They don't want to develop, they don't want to do anything. That's a difference between China and European company and Americans company. You know, the vision is different. Chinese vision is the same, but the way they go about it is different. You know, they try to do a win-win, but if you're weak, it's on you. It's not on China. So that's why we need young African leaders. Not these old leaders that we have right now that don't know anything about the new state of the world, you know, don't understand anything, then they just do stupid thing here, there. We need young leaders that understand the society that we live in right now in 2025, what's going on, to make good decisions for all people, like Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso. We need young leaders like that. We're tired of old people, all these old leaders that we had and that we still have. How can you explain those guys, those presidents spent 50, 60, 70 years and they did nothing to develop the country? That's crazy. Let's keep pushing.
Ties between China and Africa date back to the Cold War, when the Chinese offered aid and support to African leaders in their struggle for independence from colonialism. The construction of the Tanzania-Zambia railway in the 1970s is often seen as a symbol of solidarity of Beijing with Africa and a reflection of the deep roots of the China-Africa partnership.
During FOCAC last year, there was a deal signed between Zambia, Tanzania, and China to rehabilitate that railway. It has been interpreted to mean that because the US is funding the Robito called, they want to rehabilitate Tazara to live up to the standards as part of the two superpower geopolitical competition.
Former US President Joe Biden traveled to oil-rich Angola in December 2024 for a trip aimed at countering China's influence in Africa.
Biden, when he traveled to Angola, he said they have so far spent like $3 billion in that project. That is part of many ways they are trying to counter Chinese influence. The US is looking for critical minerals for the electric vehicle industry and for their military, because those minerals can be used for making military equipment. So I think the next fight or battle in Africa between those superpowers will be in the critical minerals industry.
The return of the Trump administration to power adds an extra element of uncertainty to the evolving China-Africa relationship. China's two-way trade with Africa expanded by 4.8% last year to just under $296 billion year on year, according to China's customs data.
For many years, China's main import from Africa has been oil and the other minerals, copper. If you go to DRC, you have cobalt, and recently we have iron and lithium from Zimbabwe and other African countries. During FOCAC, Cyril Ramaphosa said that they will want a balanced trade. They want China to start importing other products, like food products. So that's why China came up with the duty-free initiative where they want least developed countries to export to China. And we have seen a number of them start exporting products besides the minerals.
By removing trade barriers for the 33 least developed countries in Africa, China is facilitating non-resource exports from Africa to China, such as tea, coffee, and avocados. China's role in Africa represents one of the most significant shifts in global.
That's a bold move for China. Opening the free market for that, for the African countries, that's dope. That's dope. Now Africans need to take the opportunity and do what we need to do to develop our country, right? That's a bold move for China. Shout out to China.
Alliances and economic power dynamics of the last decade. Even with China's economic slowdown, the China-Africa ties are being recalibrated and continue to yield fruits. According to China's Ministry of Commerce, trade between China and Africa reached $282 billion in 2023, with direct Chinese investment exceeding $40 billion. China sees itself as a naturally close partner of Africa, and Chinese leaders have cultivated goodwill in Africa by presenting their country as a fellow developing nation. President Xi Jinping has consistently emphasized the importance of China's solidarity with the Global South, with Africa a key partner. He reiterated the point in his 2025 New Year address.
当今世界变乱交织，中国作为负责任大国，积极推动全球治理变革，深化全球南方团结合作。我们推进高质量共建“一带一路”走深走实。
Shout out to South China Morning Boss for the video. Great stuff right there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, we want to see Africa, emerging, becoming a superpower and its people to finally, enter the middle class, the upper class, the rich, like just other country, and start to enjoy their country and stop living. You know what I mean? But we need to do better in Africa. All leaders need to do better. You need to choose the deal correctly, and you do need to do a good partnership with all those countries, China, European country, American and South Americans in other countries. You need to do better, because oftentimes we see the African lose at the end, So we need younger leaders that understand the world that we are living now, and we do the best choice for all people in the continent. And also, I think the diaspora needs to start to go back in Africa as well. Vacation, stuff like that. Open up businesses. Because when I go back in Africa, I was in Tanzania, Zanzibar, last year on vacation. There were a lot of Chinese, there were a lot of European opening businesses, enjoying life, enjoying the soft life, the sun, the food, the people. It was amazing. And if you have all those foreigners going on in Africa, opening businesses, living good, leaving Europe to go there, why should we keep saying that we need to go back there? We just need to go back. You know what I mean? We can stay here and there, but we need to go back and up. We need to open business there. You know what I mean? Because if you don't do that, when we are ready to go there, it's gonna be late. We need to go there, buy land, with houses, businesses, stuff like that, because they are going there and doing it. The future is in Africa, not here in Europe, not in America, no. In China, it is Africa. Africa, they have everything you need. The sun is every freaking day. The food is good. The land is greener. I don't know. we need to go back and start to do business there. We need to stop all this fighting in the diaspora. Oh no, you say that, I hate the Black Americans, I hate the Black Europeans, I hate the Black Caribbeans, I hate the Black Latino Americans, I hate the Africans. No, we need to stop this shit. We need to stop that. We need to go back to invest. We need to come together, start to do business. Otherwise, we're gonna keep losing. You know what I mean? So guys, don't forget to subscribe, watch the full video, like, and comment below. And yeah, see you next time. Take care of you and your family. See you next time.